It began like any other evening segment on the popular current affairs program. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was invited to discuss political accountability, social justice, and recent developments in youth advocacy. The audience expected a fiery, intelligent debate, but no one could have foreseen how quickly the night would unravel. Just 20 minutes into the broadcast, the conversation took an unexpected turn when the name Barron Trump surfaced. Initially, it was a passing reference. Jasmine mentioned the dangerous trend of shielding high-profile individuals from scrutiny simply because of their last names. The host, sensing the weight of her words, leaned in and asked her to elaborate. Jasmine hesitated for only a second, then spoke with clarity. "We're not talking about a child anymore," she said. "We're talking about someone coming of age in the public eye, someone with resources, reach, and a disturbing digital trail that's been conveniently ignored." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. The host raised an eyebrow, clearly aware that they had just stepped into uncharted territory. "Are you suggesting there's something specific about Barron Trump that's been hidden from the public?" he asked. Jasmine's reply was instant. "I'm not suggesting. I'm stating it." What followed would shock viewers, stir online outrage, and ultimately leave Barron Trump reeling. Jasmine, really never one to speak without evidence, opened a folder on the table and calmly began citing screenshots, anonymous testimonies, and cross-referenced timestamps from online interactions linked to Barron's private accounts. These weren't political attacks. They were specific claims pointing to questionable exchanges, online behaviors, and privileged involvement in social operations that raised ethical questions. "We have a problem when the children of powerful people are weaponized for narratives, but are immune from consequences," she said. The host tried to interject, but Jasmine wasn't done. "If this were anyone else's child, any other young man of color behaving this way, they'd be dragged in the media, criminalized in school systems, and possibly surveilled." The audience fell silent. Even viewers at home could feel the weight of what was being said. Jasmine was careful not to slander. She stayed within legal boundaries, using language rooted in public interest and concern. "What matters isn't that his name is Trump," she added. "What matters is the silence, the cover-up, the refusal to treat this person as accountable simply because of who his father is." Twitter exploded within seconds. Hashtags like Barron leaks and Crockett exposes truth began trending. Backstage, sources later revealed, producers scrambled to verify the information. Legal teams began reviewing the footage in real time, debating whether to cut the segment short. But Jasmine's calm, composed tone kept them from acting too swiftly. She wasn't making wild accusations. She was laying out patterns. And while some of her claims had been floating in underground forums, no one had dared say them out loud on national television, till now. The host finally asked, "Are you concerned this will be seen as targeting a young person unfairly?" Jasmine didn't flinch. "I'm concerned that our fear of optics has created a shield around privilege. The truth isn't ageist. If you can benefit from a system, you can be questioned by it." In that moment, the camera cut to a live update on unexpected but verified statement from the Trump family spokesperson saying they were deeply disturbed by the defamatory direction of the broadcast. It was the first sign that the impact was immediate. Barron Trump, who had reportedly been watching from a private residence, was said to be so shaken by the revelations that he left the room in tears, later requiring medical attention for a stress-induced episode. The fallout was swift. Newsrooms across the country scrambled to get ahead of the story. While some questioned Jasmine's decision to bring Barron into the spotlight, others praised her for being bold enough to address the double standards entrenched in American political families. Legal analysts noted that everything she said had been carefully vetted and publicly available, though rarely discussed in mainstream media. On social media, the reactions were explosive. Conservative commentators labeled her an opportunist, while civil rights groups hailed her as a truth-teller. Meanwhile, new allegations surfaced that aligned with Jasmine's claims, including connections between online harassment campaigns and anonymous accounts later traced back to private devices registered at Trump properties. Still, Crockett remained unshaken. She released a statement the next morning. "Truth isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. "I didn't come here to coddle power. I came here to question it." That quote would soon appear on protest signs, shirts and banners outside Trump Tower, where a crowd had gathered demanding answers. For Barron, the situation had reached a crisis point. Inside the Trump family circle, reports emerged of heated arguments and urgent calls to their legal team. Melania Trump, always fiercely protective of her son, was reportedly livid. She issued a public message condemning disgraceful and dangerous attacks on a young man. Jasmine responded in a televised interview later that day. "I didn't attack," she said. "I exposed. There's a difference." And she reiterated that Barron, now approaching adulthood, had been engaged in online conduct that warranted public concern not because of who he was, but because of what he represented: unaccountable privilege. Meanwhile, psychological experts weighed in, offering differing opinions. Some called the exposure irresponsible. Others said shielding privileged youth from consequences perpetuates harm. But even Jasmine's critics struggled to refute the central point. Powerful families enjoy a protective silence that ordinary Americans do not. And as more verified digital records began to surface, it became evident that Crockett hadn't spoken out of turn, she'd spoken with precision. Behind the scenes, Barron's condition reportedly worsened. Media insiders claimed he collapsed during a private family meeting. Overwhelmed by the pressure and scrutiny he had never before experienced so publicly. Medical reports remained private, but White House insiders, speaking under anonymity, confirmed that Barron had experienced a psychological breakdown stemming from the public exposure. The family worked to contain the story, but the internet had already seized it. Influencers, podcasters, and independent journalists dissected every frame of Crockett's interview, analyzing her tone, her timing, and the chilling calm with which she delivered her claims. What struck viewers most wasn't the shock of her words, but the fact that nobody could disprove them. Crockett's team released a formal timeline of events, digital logs, and statements from whistleblowers that only reinforced the legitimacy of her comments. Attempts to silence her backfired. Lawsuits were threatened, but never filed. Legal experts believed any such case would bring more evidence to the surface, something the Trump camp wanted to avoid. Meanwhile, public interest in youth privilege, cyber manipulation, and political protection grew to a fever pitch. Crockett had hit a nerve, and she knew it. "And I'm not celebrating pain," she tweeted, "but pain caused by truth is a sign of change. And change is long overdue." The media storm continued, but Jasmine Crockett remained above the chaos. She didn't engage in Twitter wars. She didn't gloat. Instead, she used the momentum to push forward legislation demanding transparency in social media accounts linked to political families. Critics called it a vendetta, but supporters called it visionary. What began as one TV appearance had become a national conversation. News panels debated whether Jasmine had redrawn the lines of public accountability. More importantly, it exposed a cultural contradiction: America claims to value truth, but often only when it doesn't challenge wealth or legacy. Protesters in major cities began organizing truth rallies, where youth from underprivileged communities spoke about how digital misconduct had led to their suspension, criminalization, or worse. Their question was simple: why are we punished while others are protected? Crockett's interview had opened that wound. No amount of PR spin could close it. The Trump family hired image consultants, but the damage had been done. Barron, once a quiet figure in the background of political life, had become a symbol of unchecked power unraveling under the weight of its own secrets. Within weeks, congressional hearings were held on digital responsibility among minors connected to federal leadership. Jasmine Crockett testified with the same calm fire that had sparked the original moment. "This isn't about one boy," she said. "This is about an entire system that grooms power but ignores responsibility." She cited statistics showing how minority youth are disproportionately punished for digital behavior, while elite children face none. Her statements weren't attacks, they were indictments, and they found traction. Other lawmakers, both Republican and Democrat, began to quietly acknowledge that Jasmine had raised valid concerns. Behind the scenes, some even began requesting briefings from her office. As for Barron, he remained out of the public eye. Sources close to the family said he was undergoing private treatment for stress, trauma, and anxiety. Jasmine never mentioned him again publicly. She didn't need to. Her silence became its own statement, louder than any tweet. The country had heard what needed to be heard, and the echoes hadn't stopped by the time the media cycle moved on. Jasmine Crockett had emerged more powerful than ever. She had taken on the political establishment, challenged a sacred cow, and walked away. Not only